And we're live. He said, oh, here go Alitha. All right.
Here you go.
Look at that.
There she is. What's up, Alitha?
Hello.
Perfect timing.
She said at 5:00. You're not getting 2 seconds before that, okay? I'll have to try.
Get a link, and then it doesn't work with my normal browser, so I have to go in through Firefox.
You good? Okay, we live. This is the 7th annual MECCAcon Midwest Ethnic Convention for Comics and Arts. Today we are having the Back to Black series panels, and this is the Back to Black, the comic vets. And I will let you all introduce yourselves individually, starting with Larry Stroman. Go ahead, let everybody know who you are, what you do, what you did, what you about to do, why you better than everybody else. He like, what? He's probably supposed to. Go ahead, Brandon.
Oh, get it? All right. Hey, I'm Brandon Thomas, writer, co-creator of Excellence, and a bunch of other things. Miranda Mercury, Horizon. I've been writing comics since 2003. They can't get rid of me. And strangely, I've been busier than ever in these strange, awful pandemic days. So I think that is proof that we are headed for the apocalypse, because I finally have too much work to even do. So, hello, everyone.
Go ahead, Brian.
Brian, that's you.
Hey, I'm Bryan Hill. I'm a writer. I write comics like Batman and the Outsiders. I write television like Titans. And I write films. Got a movie coming up called Zone 414 with Guy Pearce, and that's coming out at some point next year. And I got more stuff I'm doing. Happy to be here.
All right, Alitha.
I'm last to the party. You should go from Steven to Khary to
No,
me.
it's your turn. Go
ahead. My name's Alitha Martinez. I'm a comic book artist. Yeah, my first book's Iron Man. I've been drawing since they let the animals off the ark. At this point, it's whom I have it drawn. Of late, it's a bird, and I'm on a legendary book called Science of Ghosts. I know, there's like so many things that is driving me crazy. Huh?
Having a lot of interferences.
What? I'm getting feedback loops. It's like
It's Larry.
That's Larry from his space station.
okay. Yeah, so yeah, that's me. I just draw comics, and I'm very shy to speak of myself, so this is difficult.
Mr. Randolph.
Oh,
everybody
okay.
froze.
Your mama watching, get it together.
Okay. Hey, hi, Mom. My name is Khary Randolph. I am also co-creator of the comic book Excellence. I'm the co-creator of the character Mosaic from Marvel Comics. I have done many comics for every publisher probably known to man. Also worked on a couple cartoons here and there, designed a couple toys, and I don't like N. Stephen Harris. So that's my resume.
Here we go. Right at the top. All right.
I have my game plan all set up. Now I can't say anything. All right,
My job is done.
I'm Stephen Harris. I've been in the business since 1955. I worked on books. I worked on recently Michael Cray along with Bryan Hill. Further back than that, I worked on Voltron with Brandon Thomas. In between that, I worked on Watson and Holmes, a few other books before that, Aztec, Deadpool, Catwoman book, and many other things in between and further back.
Okay. All right. So one of the things that I don't like to do is make overly serious, stiff panels. But
wait, Andre didn't introduce himself.
Yeah, I can't stand boring panels. Boring panels are not MECCAcon. They never will be MECCAcon. Before I do get into the more lightweight questions for the people who are on this earth that don't know who you all are, what made you all get into comics? And we'll start with Brian.
Oh man, I mean, well, look, just being real. So when I was about 7, my dad died of cancer. And the day that happened, I went to a comic book store and picked up a Batman comic. I don't remember which one it was, but it had little Bruce, and he was sitting in the alleyway holding his parents' hands, and I felt like that, right? So, I just picked it up, and then from there, I just kind of kept reading them and, kind of growing up with them, kind of as they were growing up, I was growing up, right? So like when I was a little older and I could deal with the layered stuff like the Grant Morrison and what have you, then, I was kind of doing that thing. And then I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life after high school. I got into film school. So I was like, cool. Then when I got out of there, I started screenwriting and then kind of slipped and fell into comics because I met a bunch of cats in New York. So like Steven I met in New York, Khary I met in New York, with a cat named Nelson Blake II. That's my dude. Like he and I did a project called Romulus together. So for me, like I got into comics really first with like the brotherhood of people, because comics was the first time that I met other Black creatives that were interested in the same stuff I was. And I didn't have anyone like that in St. Louis, Missouri. I was alone in some St. Louis. But when I got to New York, man, I saw the people whose work I really respected, who were further along in their path than I was in mine. So I learned from Steve, and I learned from Khary, I learned from Nelson, learned from a cat named Walter McDaniel, I learned from Afua Richardson, right? So that's what kind of brought me into the game.
Cool. What about you, Mr. Harris? Wake up.
You got unmute.
Khary didn't kill his mic.
Old man Harris. There he goes. See?
Back in 1945.
There you go.
Figured that out, huh?
Yeah. So I got into comics through reading the Star Wars comic books after Star Wars came out. Then I stopped for a while. Then I got back into comics because I was always drawing, and I always wanted to. I then started growing into wanting to tell a story with my art, and so I figured, okay, animation was too much work. So I was watching animation at the time, watching some Japanese animation that's coming up, but that was just too much work. So I said, comics is the next best thing. So I started clicking comics again. So I wanted to tell a story, and I also wanted to learn how to draw the figure, do human figure, because prior to that point, I was always just drawing spaceships and fighter planes and stuff like that. So I wanted to better my drawing skills. So what better medium to go to than comics? But that's what got me back in the comics. I got back when the X-Men started. I went to I was learning from other artists I got familiar with, and I went to school with it and started getting better as an artist. But that got me into comics.
What about you, Larry? What got you deciding that you wanted to enter the comic book world professionally? And he's frozen. Go ahead, Alitha.
It's one of those.
Come get on for Larry. Go ahead, Alitha. What made you decide that you wanted that to be your actual profession?
I didn't know it was a profession when I came back into the United States. My family had no exposure to comics or comic books or anything like that. I saw Robotech on TV, Voltron, these kind of things. And then suddenly we're in 7-Eleven one day. I'm in Florida at this point, and I wanted this book. And the answer to that was a quick no. So luckily I lived with my great-great-grandmother. She was too old to really understand where you're going. That's the day where they used to tell kids to go outside and you stay gone until it's dark. And then hopefully nothing ran you over, killed you, or ate you along the way. Those hours you're missing from 8:30 in the morning till 9:30 at night. That's my summers in Florida. But I mowed lawns, and I made the money up to go and walk the 2.5 miles back to the 7-Eleven and buy this ratty old comic book that I just love to pieces. And I think it was an X-Men book, not if I think back on it hard enough. But it wasn't until I got to a flea market, and then I saw Akira, and I was like, oh, I'm here. This is what I want, because I've always wanted to tell stories. I just didn't know it was that kind of format. And then very, very quickly, almost immediately behind that, I learned that girls don't draw comics. So there was a whole other, that's a whole other ball of wax. So to come from Florida then to New York, that was me packing a duffel bag and a guitar and just moving up here all by my lonesome to pursue this dream in a completely male-dominated industry that didn't even want to hear of me. So I could hear these funny stories of this really, really weird girl that would come up, just show up places. But it was Joe Quesada who gave me my start ghosting for him. And then Iron Man was my first book.
Oh, okay. What about you, Khary? What made you decide that you were ready to even enter into this as a profession?
I mean, I'm not sure I'm ready now. I just kind of did it because it was something I wasn't good at anything else, to be honest with you. I just I fell into comics because in my neighborhood in Boston, it got real bad in the 80s and 90s, like in terms of violence and everything else. And so I stayed in the house a lot. And eventually, one by one, all my friends moved away because they were all just like, we're getting out of this place because this place is getting crazy. So I sunk more and more into comic books and video games and cartoons and everything else. Because I was already like a quiet kid, and that was just like my little release from everything that was happening in the world. And eventually, a friend of mine was like, yo, we're the kids who draw in our class. We were the ones who kind of socialized through the artwork. That's how I got along with other people. And we were just like, yo, maybe we should look at going to art school and making this into a career, because this is our thing anyways. So I moved to New York in 1996 to go to art school, School of Visual Arts. And really, I've been on this path like ever since. There was nothing, once I decided I wanted to do comics, there was nothing else that was in my mind. There was no other backup plan. It was comics and nothing. And even when I got in and I wasn't really making it happen like I wanted it to happen, it was still a thing where I was like, I had to make this work. I'm like a stubborn individual like that. And here we are, some 20 years later. I still don't know how to make this career work, but somehow I'm paying my bills. So, you know.
Do you think that even in 2020 with COVID and everything else that's going on, because COVID isn't even remotely the only problem in the comic book industry right now, do you think it's harder to pay your bills? Do you see that is going to come up anytime soon, like within 2021, 2022? Do you all see the changes that are gradually coming, or do you see the digression of it? And anybody can answer that.
I'll go first. I gotta answer. I'm gonna be honest with you. This is a weird thing to say, but Bryan kind of touched on it. This has actually been a great time for me professionally. While personally, it's been emotionally like the worst period of my life. Professionally, it's been kind of good, because I've noticed that all the companies that might have fronted on me a little bit when I was younger, all of a sudden they seem very receptive to my creative output, and I'm not really sure why that would be. I don't really know what has changed, but it seems like people really like what I do now. All of a sudden, maybe I just got better. I'm not sure. It might just be. I really can't put my finger on it, but it seems like I've had a creative renaissance, and I don't really know why. It's weird.
Yeah, I think I slipped and fell into some of that renaissance, Khary. I think there's puddles of that renaissance out here that you can slip and fall into. You know, kind of echoing what Khary was saying and what Brandon was saying, like professionally, I've done better this past like year and a half than I think I ever have done, you know, between TV projects and screenwriting projects and comic book projects. So, you know, with everything going on, you can feel the shift and the recognition, you know, and spaces are opening up. But, you know, and there's other side of it, like just personally, emotionally, it's been incredibly difficult, you know, because, you know, I'm really grateful that I'm successful and I can protect myself and the people that I care about, you know, but a lot of people out there can't right now. And so, yeah, you know, man, and so like opportunities are there, but I think it's really important as well to just think about, like, every time I get something, I think about like what can I give back with it? You know what I mean? Because there's just a lot happening simultaneously right now.
Yeah, with me, if this happened after Michael Cray, I'd be in trouble. I'd be in big trouble. But this COVID, forgive the expression, couldn't come at a better time in my experience, where I am at this time, because even though I took a hit with conventions, because I make some money at conventions too, but I had a few jobs already going for me, and still, and I'm in a position where I could say, listen, even though I offer me what I want, I could say no to you, or just like stay no in the middle of a project and say I can't go any further because the way you guys are acting, and I still have projects coming forward. So it's an okay time for me, but it would have been a horrible time at the end of 2018. I mean, in the middle of 2018, at the end of Michael Cray. This is okay. This is okay. It was okay. It was okay to the point where I could just like, I know all of us, many of us were in the midst of the beginning of this quarantine and pandemic, where we were like kind of floating around, like, yo, adjusting to this situation. And for me, I was either slowing down my work or not working at all, because it was an adjustment. So then I got back onto it, and I could afford it. I was in a position where I can afford to do that. But now I'm catching up. But still, I mean, I was at that point where it was okay for me to just chill for a minute and get caught up and adjust to the new circumstance, and adjust and get back moving on the work.
Yeah. I mean, everything is transforming right now. And personally, I have never been this busy. Like, I've never had this many assignments that I'm working on at the same time. And like you said, it's exciting and it's gratifying, but there's also a part of me that, feels a little like, don't really know how to feel about it, just because it feels like the house is burning down, around us.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say, emotionally, that's been kind of like my most kind of difficult thing, to have so many things to do and to have all of these things that are literally just like falling apart, like in front of our eyes, and still, having to meet deadlines, and still, having to stay up late, and, I don't have to get this script good on, a couple hours sleep. So it's been an interesting time, but everything around us is transforming, and that includes the comics industry. And all of a sudden, as Khary hinted, a lot of us have become, I don't want to say commodity, but there are a lot of people that were standing in our way that have either been removed, or they have had, they've had an awakening. And all of a sudden, we aren't as, fearsome and risky, and, whatever word that you want to put to it. And so, I'm just trying to keep up with it, and I'm always maintain an appropriate level of appreciation, because I know everyone's situation is not like this, and I know that I'm lucky and I'm fortunate, and I just want to keep getting better and put out things that have my name on it that I'm proud of having out there, and just kind of advance the idea of what is possible for, a quote unquote Black writer in the mainstream, or however you want to put it. But it's a strange, exciting time, and I don't think anyone can really predict what next year is going to be, or what 2022 is going to be. But I do miss conventions, strangely. I didn't think I was going to. Yeah, I miss my barber. I'll see you soon, FA, I hope. And we're just trying to hang in there, just trying to maintain. So
I'm sure you missed the convention, because you were always the first one to be at the parties and the last one to leave, Brandon. So I'm sure you missed it the most.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Come on.
I'm sure you miss it the
I
most.
don't miss that part of it.
Yeah. Brandon stayed on the turn up convention weekend.
Uh-huh.
So
and dressed better than everybody else too. I remember the first time I met Brandon, he had a sport coat on. I was like, okay.
Oh my I call that my signing jacket.
I was like, oh, signing jacket.
That's the writer's uniform right there. Sports coat and a t-shirt.
Yeah, my signing jacket.
I got this beat, man, because I've seen your pictures, man.
Got the arm patches.
You wear a t-shirt and a sport coat, so that got to count for something. So like I was about to say, because it's MECCAcon, no matter what, I have to bring it back to Black comics, not just comics. What made you all? I'll be specific. Stephen, what made you want to center your comic creations on Black culture?
Because fuck them. That's why.
Wait.
I apologize on behalf of Stephen. He doesn't know what he's
Yes,
saying
on behalf
right
of Stephen, he's obviously lost his mind.
Must be that COVID.
The mighty Marvel and DC Nation listening.
My virgin ears. Never heard such language.
My child is standing right here.
No, seriously.
Seriously, what made you decide that you wanted a Jala and the Fringe and everything? Like, what made you want to center your own properties on Black culture as a whole?
Because we have too much going on. In when I moved to New York, I was involved in a few things, whether struggles or community events, and I seen characters and people in there that were characters.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we have elements in history which can be used or mined for super or fantastic adventures. So I just want to see us doing cool stuff, being good, being bad, being indifferent, in the mix, and being essential actors in the story. So that's why, and that's why I do what I do. Because whether it's a street level or community level story or action adventure or a sci-fi adventure, I mean, we have the style, we have the personality, we have the characteristics to be all part of that. I mean, we have Afrofuture, we have Afro-punk. When you see a whole bunch of inspirations for Afrofuturism in some of the things people wear. I mean, going back earlier than that, we have that. So I just wanted to put a little bit of that in what I do, and have stories revolve around that, or those characters revolve around the stories.
Alitha, do you feel like it's important to add Latino culture inside your own properties? Or do you think it's not important?
Why do you ask me that question?
Because I'm gangster. I'm going to ask about the real shit today.
Latino books do you see out there? We're still in the kitchen. What are you talking about? Anytime you see them, what are they doing? Even on TV, they were saving their grandmother selling drugs on the corner. We're not even a part of this conversation, truly. Every time I draw something, they're trying to figure out where I fit. I'm still that funny little unicorn that fits with no one, nowhere. So I just want to draw everything, and I want to draw everyone. So I take that as my opportunity to go anywhere. If you're not accepted anywhere, then that means you should go everywhere, exactly everywhere. Where you don't want me, that's where I'm going to show up. I'll be right there with you. I will sit there and I will sit in the middle of an Asian con, and they say, "Are you Asian?" Of course not, but buy my book. So to me, it's not even about that to me yet, because we're so far away. And yes, Yumi and Ever, they don't realize that both of those characters are Hispanic, because we look like everyone. My family, it doesn't look just like, we're not all homogenous in our shades. We come from the blacks of the black to the whitest of the white, and we're all still family. How can I show that in a culture, even when I'm struggling to write things, when people turn around and go, "Oh, well, can't you make them all one skin color?" I don't know that. I didn't grow up with that. So why in the world would I reflect that in my book? So that, what, am I supposed to exclude my brother and sister because one is super dark to me and one is super light to me, because everyone else cannot understand that they are my blood family? Don't bring the Hispanics one in here. They don't even know what to call us. This year we're Latinx. What are you going to call me next year? At this point, what are you going to call me? I have no idea. You don't know yet. So I can only be present. I can only keep being here.
I don't know why Alitha did. Everybody think Alitha is so sweet and
I am sweet. What are you talking about?
It's fuck whenever I hear her talk, but I don't know. I guess I'll be in different rooms everybody else be in with Alitha. Alitha would be real thorough with it. Would anybody else like to reflect on that question before I ask the next, or let you all have a free talk?
Is Larry unfrozen? No, he's not.
Larry frozen and not frozen and frozen and not frozen. So I'm just gonna leave him up there. So if he just starts talking, just everybody be quiet. Because that means
I have a quick answer to that question, just because
Go ahead, brother.
when I first started in my career, I truthfully was not too concerned with representing, I guess, Black culture. My only point in making it was trying to be the best artist I could be. That's all I cared about. I wanted to be known as the best artist in comics, and that was my number one focus for like the first half of my career. It wasn't until maybe the last 5 or 6 years or so when I started realizing that I had an obligation that was bigger than myself. You know, I started having kids come up to me at conventions that were saying things to me like, "Hey man, we saw you in an interview and we liked what you said and the fact that you look like us." Or, you know, they would say things like, "Yeah, we went to art school too because we heard you did it." And then I started to realize that I actually had a voice that was bigger than myself. And it kind of dawned on me that I guess if I have a platform, it's meaningful to use that in a responsible manner. You would think I would have learned that from, you know, the comic books, all the Spider-Man shit that I read, but it really didn't dawn on me at all that there's like great power and responsibility in the things you do. So I guess in the last couple years, I've made a more concerted effort to represent kind of where I'm from and to put more of that into the fiction that I create, to make sure that it inspires people who both look like me and people that don't look like me, honestly. Like I need it known that there's not one default way of creating art in fiction, and that there's a lot of ways to do it and to get that voice out so that it's not homogenized, you know. So yeah, these days it's a more concerted effort, but it wasn't always like that, not for me at least.
Do you all feel that representation should be correct when it comes to different cultures? Like, do you all feel like, why am I echoing? Am I still echoing?
Say something again.
Hello?
Good.
No,
That must
that's
not
good.
been me. How important do you feel it is to have accurate representation of Black culture in comics? Like, some people are very light about accuracy, like names, clothing, hair. Like, sometimes people just have the standard, it's a Black woman, she either got straight flowy hair, she got an afro. If she's an African, that means she has a bone in her nose. If she's Latino, that means she has a flowing skirt and a bandana top. Like, how important do you think visual and written description? Because my son very much pays attention to written description of Black culture inside books, and you know, the little boy be going in about a lot of folks we know. But how important do you feel that is, though? Like, do you all feel like it's just more important that we're in something, period, and we're being represented? Or are you all critical of the actual representation? And I'll start with
I'm very critical about representation stuff, right? So let me split it up a little bit. So in comics, I kind of get in where I fit in, honestly. You know, like I'll do Batman and the Outsiders, and frankly, I think they needed a Black writer to do it because Black Lightning was in it, and Batman just came along with it. And then they saw like, oh, he could write Batman, so I guess we'll let him go on for a few more issues, right? And that's just kind of like the thing, you know. And so when I thought about Black Lightning, Jefferson Pierce, you know, I mean, I'm not throwing shots at anybody's work, but when it came to the books, it just didn't feel like a guy I would actually know in the real world. You know, it felt like a noble creation, you know, meant to do a positive thing, but he didn't feel like a living and breathing person. And I guess because I write screenplays and TV too, I got to write for people, right? And so I got to write things that human beings that bring all of their varied experience and difference, you know, can bring to life, right? So a lot of what I do is I just try to expand the idea of what we can be as people of color. You know, and most of like, if I get a screenplay or something and it's got Black characters in it, usually what I'm doing is just sort of teaching people, we're interested about more than these 4 things that I keep reading in every screenplay. Right. And, we do other things, and there is diversity of thought in our community. And so I think, representation is very important. But I always push to show as many variants and differences as possible, so that someone who's like in Omaha, Nebraska somewhere that's into whatever they're into can feel like, oh, wait a minute, I can still exist inside this conversation, right? I can still exist inside of these works. And I'm hoping that because we have more creators of color that are coming in, bringing their different experiences, to people, we're going to see more variety, right? But I think, it's something that you got to push for. You can't just push for inclusion. You have to also push for inclusion and dimension at the same time, right? And you got to fight for it because you won't automatically get it.
Yeah, I think that's a big, me and Khary have talked about that a lot with excellence. Just,
Shout out to excellence.
What? Oh, just pushing to get kind of like as many kind of varied perspectives of Blackness. Thank you.
Keep talking.
As many varied perspectives of Blackness as we can get into one book. The one thing that I will say is, I think a kind of trap that is easy to fall into is where you are trying to get every single representation of everything into one thing. So I think you have to be very honest, with yourself and decide that, there are certain things, like, for instance, Bryan, there are just certain things you're not going to be able to do with Black Lightning versus a Black character that you created and just, kind of understand at such an intimate, granular level that you just have to be honest with yourself, and you have to always do the best that you can, but realize that you're not going to be able to get the kind of, you're not going to be able to represent all of Blackness within whatever mainstream, title you're working in. And even in your own title, you're not going to be able to get everything. And a big kind of what's exciting about excellence to me is that there are things that I can bring to it, but there are things that Khary can bring to it that either I don't know or I don't have enough experience with, because, Khary has added so much to kind of like the visual world of excellence, the way that people dress, the way that the hair is, and those little, the details matter. And that has been something that has just been invaluable. And it's why I, wanted to work with him on this book, because I knew that he would bring that level of kind of detail and authenticity. So you kind of bring everyone's own respective levels of authenticity together, and you create something, cool, if you're lucky.
Would you like to add to that, Larry, since we here with you now? Wait, are we here with Larry this time?
Larry
saying we gonna keep doing this.
You look like a superhero.
He like Zeus right now. He just kind of
right. I know.
Let me make sure they speak.
I hate that his streaming isn't working, but at least we know he's trying. At least we know he's trying to do it, and that is itself I'm grateful for. What about you? What about anybody else that would like to tap on that before I ask one of the last questions? Or the last question. Would anybody else like to add to that?
I think details are important. It's like, of course, story is important, the most important thing. But I was told as an artist in school that pay as much attention to your background as your foreground, and it may not be as detailed, but you got to put as much thought into it as what the main story is about too. The details, the subtleties, the nuances are important. It may not be about that, but it will only add to a strong story and make the story stronger and complement it better.
Okay. What projects do you all feel are the most exciting projects that you all have worked on, or not even exciting? Like what projects of yours do you feel hold the most energy as far as growth in your careers for you? Even if it's an upcoming project that you like most excited about, like, oh my God, I'm finally about to get a fucking Eisner, or I'm about to get my next Eisner, or whatever. Like what makes you all most
What's that?
excited as far as
What's
the
an
project?
Eisner? I never heard of it.
I knew you were going to say that.
I could care less about Eisner's though, but I know I'm not supposed to say that. It's just
I wouldn't
that my
know about it,
mentality
so
becomes different in
don't know.
certain things. I mean, I'm grateful to see when Black people win one, but I honestly could care less. I care more about the validation from our own people. But go ahead. What projects are you all working on that you all are more excited about, or a project that you did in the past?
Well, I think that Michael Cray, the project I did with Steven, was pretty evolutionary for me because really until then, I hadn't really done a long run of anything with like superheroes or something like that. You know, I did a book called Postal that like 5 people read, and I appreciate all 5 of them. But it was like a crime story, you know, kind of set in like St. Louis stuff, right? But you know, Michael Cray was one of those things where I'll be honest, it felt like a losing battle going into it because it felt like, oh, they have a Black character they don't know what to do with, and they just need some Black people to work on, right? And you know, and look, it's a job, and you'll think about doing it. And then I spoke to Warren, and I was very, very candid with Warren Ellis about that. I'm like, I'm not doing that. I have no interest in just being a brown face on a thing, right? And he's like, no, we don't want you to do that. You know, we want you to do other stuff. And so what I got to do was severely reformat a lot of DC Comics characters with Steve, you know. And I got to push it in terms of like the way I would lay out action sequences and kind of the moral complexity of it, you know, and to have that kind of free reign in a sort of Elseworldsy, you know, kind of space to do that kind of stuff, it was cool. You know, and I hadn't really done anything like that in a long time. And I was thinking about getting out of comics, really. I'm kind of always thinking about getting out of comics, but I was thinking about getting out of comics seriously then. But then, you know, that project was so much fun, I kind of stuck around, and it introduced me to a lot of people. And, you know, I was able to work with Steve, a friend I've known for a very long time, you know, on a DC thing, and that was cool, right? So, yeah, I think, you know, that project you can see me grow in that. You know what I mean? Like, if you look at the first couple issues and you're like, okay, that's a dude in the shallow end of the pool. But then you start looking at what I was doing, you know, in like the later 4 or 5 issues, and you can see that I'm starting to feel more comfortable. I'm starting to grow with that stuff. So I'm kind of proud of the journey of that book.
That was a really good book, guys.
It was.
Well, thank you.
There was one issue you guys had that had a really good cover on it. I don't know who drew it, but I thought that cover was real dope. I think it was like issue number 2 or 3. Harry, you remember that cover?
It just real quick when you talk about representation. So just a little small thing, like 30-second thing. So one of the stories, it's about like this evil Aquaman in this fishing town and this kind of like weird Lovecraftian thing, right? And I remember I was so proud of that because that is exactly the kind of storytelling they don't think that Black people can do.
I love
right?
it.
And that became like one of the things, you know. I think I even talked to you about it a little, Steve. Like, I'm like, you know, we got to continually show people what we can do with this book. Yeah. And we gotta, you know, because like our history might be a mystery to the people that hire us, but their stuff isn't. And there's power in demonstrating your fluency in what they know, right? And then to be able to integrate that with what they don't know makes your work really special. And so I thought we were able to do that in that book. Like, we have authenticity from, you know, who we were as people, but also we could play in their sandboxes a little bit and be like, gothic horror, yeah, we can do that. Yeah. You know, like political violence, like, yeah, we can do your spy thriller too. You ain't safe.
Yeah,
you know? So that's what got me fired up out of that one.
Yeah, I call Michael Cray the low-tech James Bond because he's going there with a gun and information. And he held back on his power because he didn't know about it, but mostly his gun and information because he would research the character. I mean, research the his target and going after them. But yeah, he was dope, and he had to say,
your genres ain't safe. We got all your genres.
There's nothing we can't do.
There's nothing we can't do. What will they do about us?
And we take what we have and use it for ourselves. Like, oh shoot, oh, you do have it. Let me give you some.
Like, oh no, don't do that.
Come to threaten my sandbox.
No, we were hoping.
Come to threaten my sandbox. Oh no. Yeah.
Well, for me, first it was Miranda Mercury. that was a project that changed my life profoundly, and Excellence. I don't want to keep talking about it, but
No, keep talking about it.
okay, all right,
You need the
I'll
sales.
keep talking about it. But Excellence has the reason why I'm busy, like so busy right now, is Excellence, and it is easily the most kind of like raw, emotional, personal work that I've ever done in comics, and it took me a while to get to that point where I was comfortable, kind of exposing myself in that way. But thus far, it has definitely it's definitely paid off, and I am having the opportunity to work in, like Bryan said, work in some sandboxes and do some projects and work with some characters and play with some themes and genres that, you know, quote unquote black writers are typically not afforded. And so I'm thankful for that. And I'm just trying to get better. But Excellence most definitely has really changed everything. It's changed the game for me profoundly.
Well, you all did an outstanding job on Excellence, and I hope it remains for a mighty long time, because it's a very
we still
powerful
got some work to do.
Yeah, we're still working on it. You know, I'm late on my deadlines right now. Let's go.
I wasn't gonna say anything, but
yeah, I'm happy that it exists. I'm happy that you all named it Excellence, and you know y'all backed that shit up, because it would have been real messed up if it wasn't. Y'all have been getting dragged everywhere, all over the place. Y'all named the book Excellence, and it was just like super subpar, like other books I won't name, but everybody glorifies. So, you know, I'm happy y'all. Yeah, Brandon laughing because he knows what I'm talking about. But yeah, I'm happy that you all, even as a whole, like this whole panel, I'm so grateful that I have the caliber of people in my network, in my cipher, in my friendships that I have, because it's so important to me. And I tell everybody all the time that I want to present the best to the public, not just people I can find, because I think that we are the best. So because I think we are the best, I have to make sure that I show that we are the best at all times. And I'm just really grateful that you all chose to participate in MECCAcon, that some of you all that have participated in things I've done in the past, and will continue to do. And I'm just really grateful. I really am. So thank y'all so much. If it's any projects that you all haven't come up that you all want to announce real quick, please feel free.
Hey, I think
be on the lookout of what you're doing right now. You can announce that also.
I feel like we've talked about Excellence enough. So,
what else you working on, Khary Randolph?
I'm not allowed to say at the moment, but just wrapped up a series of covers on Teen Titans, which I was pretty happy with.
And they looked wonderful.
Yes,
thank you very much.
Amazing covers.
I have a backlog of covers for both Marvel and DC that are coming out in the next couple months. And yeah, go buy Excellence.
Yeah.
Excellent. What are you all on? Number 10 or 11?
We're working on 10 now.
Yeah.
10. Okay, so I have 9.
10 is next.
I can't keep up.
Yeah. So you up to date. Don't worry.
Okay. No, Water Midnight be making sure I'm up to date. They be,
yeah. You know. There's actually some big, we can't say it here, but there's some big Excellence news that we'll be announcing probably maybe in a month or so.
Yeah.
Maybe sooner than that, actually. Yeah. But a really cool initiative. I'll just say that.
Hopefully we can announce a few things. We'll see.
Yeah. Okay. See, I know what you're talking about. All right.
I don't know.
What about you, Bryan Edward Hill?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm writing season 3 of Titans, so that's going to be coming out at some point whenever we finish filming it during COVID, and got one more issue of Batman and the Outsiders out there. I mean, you know, I've got some other stuff I'm doing that's coming down the pike, but I'll go ahead and say, go out there and buy Excellence. It's good. That's a good book. You know, so you got to support that.
I just reread the trade.
What's that?
I just reread the trade.
Yeah, man.
Right.
I mean,
Was it okay? Did it hold up?
The writing is
The
fire.
artwork was kind of subpar, but I
Oh,
know Khary was
trash.
doing his best, and I just
Trash.
try to support because he's black. But you know, the artwork was a little shifty. It was a little
I got
shifty.
it. I
I
agree.
see where he's
But
going.
it's okay.
Guy got
It was
potential.
good enough to support. You
He'll
know,
get there one day.
good enough to support. You know, I got to support my people. You know, regardless. What about you, Alitha Martinez?
Well, as I said, I'm on Legendary Signs of Ghost. I think that's slated for next year to release. It's a Bird was just released. And everything else, of course, is the normal industry large secret. So can't talk about it. Just got to wait and see.
Yeah. Exciting stuff.
Oh,
It's
Alitha worked
not
on that. It was a bird with Excellence homie, Emilio Lopez. Shouts to Emilio.
Oh, I was gonna tell you. I think Emilio's colors looked really, really good on your
Y'all look real
art.
good together,
I
man.
really liked it.
I mean, I'm not saying to steal them away from our book. I'm just saying y'all look good together. That's all I'm saying.
Just borrowed him. That was just being borrowed.
All right.
Nothing
I'm
else.
watching you,
should,
Alitha.
you
I'm
should
watching you.
borrow him again for something short. It doesn't take that much time.
Projects ago,
And that
like
was
the other question you all had asked, that was like, what was your big defining project, or what was like a project you enjoyed working on? I didn't answer that question because I honestly can't answer that question. Every single time I work on something, it's someone else's big defining project. And for me, I brace myself for impact because I'm going to get it no matter what. Someone's going to drop me a line. That's why I don't do social media and I don't really say anything, because somebody is going to be unhappy that I've worked on this.
I need to learn that.
Dropping of this last project from DC, you're everywhere and at the same time. Why didn't they get a guy to draw it? Thanks, Khary.
Oh.
It's like, why? It's like, oh, she doesn't know what she is. Oh, I know totally what I am. I have no problem walking around in the skin I'm in. So, and then before that, there's Black Panther. Got a whole Eisner for that. What did it do for me? Nothing, not at all. Other people I hear talk about it. Oh, wait, before that, you've got Heroes, you've got Iron Man. You can name it years and years and years and years. X-Men. It's like I'm constantly fighting up a mountain and I get nowhere. But I keep working. And as I keep saying, I'm here. So I'm waiting to reach that top. But I realize I'm about halfway there. Haven't gotten to the top yet. We'll see what it's like. And for me, the top would be to be a sci-fi writer. Now, I know you have Black sci-fi writers and white sci-fi writers, but not a lot of Latinx, Latino, Hispanic, whatever they're calling us this year, sci-fi writers, much less ones with flowery sounding names as mine has been called. My name is too flowery for publishing. So yeah, I've heard that. So again, I look at that, I'm halfway up Mount Everest. So I'll tell you about it when I get to the top, hopefully before, my retirement plan, which is to die at my desk, happens.
Hopefully.
Well, is it anything you all would like to say before I close it out? Because I'm about to close it out. Is it any final thought for like 10 seconds each that you all want to say, or y'all are good and y'all just love me so much because I'm so great?
Thank you for having us, Brown.
Thank
you.
I appreciate you.
Thank you for having us. It's been great.
Thank you for putting all this together. It looks hard.
Thank you. I'm about to end the broadcast, but if y'all still want to talk, that's on y'all. Otherwise, y'all can leave. I'm just about to stop the recording. But thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
All right.
Good to see everybody.
Good to
Stay
see
safe
you.
out there.